Hello, welcome to the fourth tutorial in my series of free online jazz piano tutorials. Today we're going to look at a minor 251 voicing package for the left hand, type A and B minor 251 voicings. Before we proceed with this, just make sure you're thoroughly conversant with major 251 structures, type A and B, as was covered in tutorial 3. Minor key harmony is considerably more complex than major key harmony. There are essentially four parent scale sources for minor scale tone harmony. The first parent scale source for minor scale tone harmony is the pure minor scale. It's also known as the Aeolian mode or the natural minor scale. So, A pure minor is actually the sixth mode of the C major scale. The second is harmonic minor scale tone harmony. Now this scale is the most common parent scale for minor key scale tone harmony, whereas the first scale choice that we mentioned, the pure minor, is mostly used in pop music or folk music. The third parent scale for minor scale tone harmony is the jazz minor scale. The jazz minor scale is sometimes referred to as the ascending melodic minor scale because the traditional melodic minor reverts to the natural minor when it descends, whereas the jazz minor is identical whether it's ascending or descending. In other words, it descends using the same notes as it uses when it ascends. The fourth parent scale for minor key centers is the Dorian mode. Now this scale is the most common parent scale for modal improvisations, such as tunes such as Miles Davis' So What or John Coltrane's Impressions. Okay, let's assemble a left-hand voicing package, type A and type B, for the minor 251 sequence. And to do this, we'll adapt the major 251 voicings, type A and B, that we looked at in the last tutorial, tutorial 3. I'm going to show you a sort of a hybrid mix of voicings, a package that's typically used by players such as Bill Evans. Now the chord symbols indicating a minor 251 environment in C minor are commonly D minor 7 flat 5, G7 altered, abbreviated to just ALT, or sometimes G7 flat 9, and C minor 6. In the key of G minor, the symbols would be A minor 7 flat 5, D7 altered, or D7 flat 9, and G minor 6. Alright, let's assemble the package, a minor 251 package in the key of C minor, which will use type A voicings as we looked at last week. There's the D minor 7 voicing, as we looked at last week, type A. Okay, replace the ninth with the tonic. This is a D minor 7 after all, and lower the fifth to a flat 5. There's your type A D minor 7 in this hybrid minor package as used by Bill Evans. Next we'll take the type A G7. Remember the G7 type A or any type A dominant 7th is going to be flat 7, 9, 3, 13. That's the 5 chord as we worked out in the last tutorial in C major. We'll take that chord, we'll take that voicing, and we'll sharp the 9, and we'll flat the 13. Now we could call that a G7 sharp 9 flat 13, but when we look at it closely, it's actually a D flat 7 type B, 3, 13, flat 7, 9. So by taking a type A dominant voicing, sharpening the 9 and flatting the 13, essentially turning it into a G7 altered, we have actually used a D flat 7 type B voicing with a G bass. We can either call it a G7 sharp 9 flat 13 Or think of it as a D flat 7 type B over a G bass. Finally, for our type A voicing in C minor, we'll take the type A voicing in C major that we worked out last week in tutorial 3. So in the key of C major, it's everything down one scale degree. There's your C major. Just lower the third. Alright, and the entire package sounds like this. D minor 7 flat 5, G7 altered, C minor 6. Once again, they're only generic chord symbols, so don't be concerned with the fact that there's more in the actual voicings than is asked for by the symbols. So let's follow the same procedure for a type B voicing package in the key of G minor. Last week we worked out that the type B, type A or type B voicing package in the key of G major was this. Let's first look at the 2 chord. Take the A minor 7 voicing, replace the 9th with the tonic and lower the 5th. There's a voicing for your A minor 7 flat 5, type B. Next we'll take the type B D7 voicing, which is chord 5 in the key of G major, and we'll sharp the 9 and flat the 13. There's our D7 altered, which is chord 5 in the key of G minor using type B. And we'll notice that in sharpening the 9 and flatting the 13, we've actually morphed that D7 voicing into a type A flat 7. Flat 7, 9, 3, 13. So we can either think of it as a D7 sharp 9 flat 13, or an A flat 7 type A over a D bass. So finally, for our 1 chord voicing in G minor, type B, we'll take the voicing that we worked out in tutorial 3 for G major 7, the type B package. That's what we worked out for chord 1, type B. Just lower the 3rd, and there's our G minor 6 type B. We'll notice that it's also a type B C7, 3, 13, flat 7, 9, type B C7. So we can either think of it as just a G minor 6 type B or a C7 type B over a G bass. So now our type B hybrid minor package in G minor sounds like this. Now if that altered chord sounds a bit radical or it doesn't quite go with the melody, let's go back to the type A. Type A 251 in the key of C minor. If the altered chord sounds a bit radical, then instead of going through that whole procedure that I just described, after the 2 chord, just drop the 7th a half step to create a G7 flat 9. And that package, type A, will sound like this. Applying the same principle to the type B package in G minor, if that D7 altered, which is actually an A flat 7 type A over a D bass, if it sounds a bit radical, go back to the 2 chord and just drop the 7th of A minor 7 a half step to create a D7 flat 9. And the package type B will sound like this. As with the major key type A and B voicings. The keys of C to F usually use type A, and the keys of F sharp to B usually use type B. It's not set in stone, it's just a tendency to keep the voicings in around the sweet spot in the middle of the piano. So in the key of C minor, type A, hybrid minor voicings are key of C sharp minor, key of D minor, and so on and so forth up to the key of F minor. Then the type Bs start with the key of F sharp minor, then up to the key of G minor, and so on and so forth. Let's apply these voicings to some jazz standard changes. I'm composing a tune called Hardly Softly, which whose chords are very similar to a jazz standard called Softly as in a Morning Sunrise. Let's see how these voicings work over those changes. We can see that Hardly Softly starts with a series of minor 2-5-1s in A minor. The form is AABA. It starts with a 1 chord in A minor, and then in bar 2 we see the 2-5 relating to A minor 6. Bars 3 and 4 are a repeat of bars 1 and 2. For the slash phrasing in bars 5, 7 and 8, use the chord scales outlined in the previous bars. Now the B section modulates to relative major, and then returns to relative minor for the last A section. During the B section, just target the chord tones. For this tutorial, we're concentrating on finding voicing and scale solutions for minor 2-5-1s. So Hardly Softly starts with the minor 2-5-1 sequence in the key of A minor, although it starts with the 1 chord, and then goes to the 2, and to the 5, and to the 1. Now for the 2 chord, the B minor 7 flat 5, which I've constructed by using the B minor 7 as in type B, as in tutorial 3, and replace the 9th with the tonic, lower the 5th. For that B minor 7 flat 5, a lot of the textbooks will tell you or advise you to use a Locrian sharp 2 scale, which is this, B Locrian sharp 2. Now B Locrian sharp 2 is exactly the same scale as G Lydian Dominant. So what I'm doing here is I'm thinking over the B minor 7 flat 5, I'm thinking a major third below to a G Lydian Dominant scale. And that will give you the same sound if you're not going to start on the tonic of the scale every time you enter the chord. So whether you're thinking Locrian sharp 2 or G Lydian Dominant, you should get the same result. For the 5 chord voicing and scale solution in this 2-5-1 hybrid minor package, B minor 7 flat 5, E7 altered. For that E7 altered, instead of thinking the scale of E altered, which is often recommended, I'm thinking of the Lydian Dominant a tritone away. So let's have a look at how that works. The E altered scale is exactly the same scale, or is a mode of, the B flat Lydian Dominant. And given the fact that your E7 altered voicing is in fact a B flat 7 type A, part of your mind is already thinking B flat. So it might be advantageous to actually think a tritone away from E, 1, 2, 3, and use the Lydian Dominant, the B flat Lydian Dominant, over the E7 altered. Now using an E altered scale over E7 altered will sound pretty much the same as using a B flat Lydian Dominant, because they're really just the same scale. E altered. B flat Lydian Dominant. Sometimes a bit of chromatics will come in, that sort of thing. But that doesn't alter the fact that you're essentially thinking of a certain scale and just adding some chromatics. For minor 6 chords, I'm thinking a Lydian Dominant a perfect fourth above. Let's have a look at how that works. B minor 7 flat 5, E7 altered, A minor 6. Now A minor 6, it's quite common for a musician or a player to use the A jazz minor scale. But A jazz minor is exactly the same scale as D Lydian Dominant. And given the fact that your A minor 6 voicing is really just a D7 type B, 3-13 flat 7-9 over an A bass, it might make sense to actually think of the A jazz minor as a D Lydian Dominant. So when we look at those 3 voicings, the B minor 7 flat 5 using a G Lydian Dominant, to an E7 altered using a B flat Lydian Dominant, then an A minor 6 using a D Lydian Dominant. Well, that's my start point. Then extra passing notes creep in, further softening or disguising the identity of the various Lydian dominants. The notes that you see on the music indicate the scale I'm using as the source of the improvisations. This is just one facet of my personal chord scale perspective. Now, there are many different chord scale relationship models used by different players, and I suggest you investigate widely before choosing a model for yourself. While the note choices presented here are valid, the way I'm defining these scales as modes of more conventional scale choices may not suit everyone. What I'd like to do now is improvise over the chord changes for Hardly Softly in all 12 keys to demonstrate how the type A and B minor 251 voicings work as against the Lydian Dominant scales. And I'm going to be thinking of the Lydian Dominants that I've outlined. So for the minor 7 flat 5 chords, I'll be thinking Lydian Dominant a major third below. For the dominant 7th altered chords, I'll be thinking Lydian Dominant of a tritone away. And for the 1 chord, the minor 6 chord, I'll be thinking of the Lydian Dominant a perfect fourth above. This is not necessarily a great chord scale relationship paradigm for everyone. It works for me, but everybody has to make up their own way that they would like to view the scales. Now, different instruments pose their own unique mechanical problems, and a sax player, for instance, because they're not having to think of left-hand voicings, but they have other problems to deal with, thinking of Lydian dominants that do not share the same root as the chord that you're looking at might be rather difficult or inconvenient. Not worth the effort. In a future tutorial, I'll outline a strategy for being able to transpose a jazz standard into all 12 keys, but for the moment I'll just play the changes and improvise using those Lydian dominants that I spoke of over the changes for Hardly Softly. ran out of keys. Okay, thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to talking with you next time. Bye for now.